Right now, a grand illusion is playing out across the global digital landscape as the internet remains locked in a fierce, polarizing shouting match. One half is screaming that artificial intelligence is the most dangerous, overinflated financial bubble ever conceived, while the other half swears it is the greatest technological savior since humanity harnessed electricity. But if you step back from the blinding digital noise, a deeply unsettling truth emerges because both sides are completely blind to the real game. They are wasting their breath arguing over user growth, adoption rates, and monthly subscription revenues, which are metrics that all boil down to one incredibly deceptive concept known as demand. The terrifying reality of demand is that it can be faked, manipulated, and constantly rewritten by corporate gatekeepers with a stock price to pump and a venture capital round to secure. True market masters, the quiet architects of wealth, who have tracked financial panics for over 2 centuries, never look at demand. Instead, they look at the unfakeable other side of the coin, which is supply. Generating supply requires massive, irreversible, cold, hard capital, committed up front, since you cannot manifest data centers, high-end silicon chips, and nuclear-grade power grids out of thin air. Supply tells the brutal, unvarnished story of what is actually unfolding. And right now, that story is flashing red. To grasp the terrifying scale of the machine currently operating beneath our feet, we must look directly at the math. This year alone, global tech giants are on track to pour an astronomical $725 billion into artificial intelligence infrastructure. When humans see a number that large, our brains instinctively glaze over because we cannot naturally process that volume of wealth. To shatter that abstraction, consider that if you were to spend exactly $1 million every single day, starting from the day Jesus was born, traveling through the collapse of the Roman Empire, navigating the Dark Ages, witnessing the Renaissance, surviving both world wars, and continuing all the way to this very second, you still would not have spent as much money as big tech is projected to burn on AI in just this single calendar year. We have never seen a capital deployment of this magnitude in human history, and while financial bubbles do not have to be built on bad technology, since history proves they are almost always built on world-changing breakthroughs, they are all bound by the same absolute gravity-like laws of economics.
Adam Smith noted money floods into profitable industries, attracting hyper-competition.
Money naturally floods into industries, promising high returns, which inevitably attracts hyper-competition that ruthlessly crushes profit margins for every single player in the room. Modern finance calls this predictable phenomenon the capital cycle, and it moves with relentless robotic precision through 4 distinct phases, beginning with the flood, where a dazzling new technology arrives. Returns look impossibly lucrative, and capital comes pouring in to chase the hype. This quickly transitions into the boom, where Wall Street piles in faster than the actual market can mature, causing everyone to build simultaneously while completely ignoring the fact that they are duplicating each other's efforts. Then comes the inevitable collapse, where the sheer weight of oversupply crushes the very returns that attracted the money in the first place, causing prices to plummet, over-leveraged corporations to fracture, and early investors to be completely wiped out. Finally, the cycle culminates in the inheritance, which is the silent, brutal finale where capital flees the wreckage. The original brash builders go bankrupt, and the patient, calculating long-term strategists walk into the smoking ruins to buy up the invaluable infrastructure for pennies on the dollar and quietly harvest the true wealth. We watched this exact cycle play out in the British railway mania of the 1840s, where thousands of ordinary citizens bankrupted themselves laying tracks to nowhere. We watched it in the late 1990s fiber optic boom, where telecom giants buried 80 million miles of cable beneath the oceans, only for 85% of it to sit completely dark and unused, while the NASDAQ collapsed by 70%. We even watched it just a decade ago in the shale oil crash, where fracking capital oversupplied the world until oil prices plummeted from $100 to $30 a barrel, sending hundreds of producers into bankruptcy. 3 different centuries and 3 completely different technologies, yet the exact same underlying mechanism destroyed them all. And now that very cycle has arrived at the gates of artificial intelligence. In the dot-com crash, telecom companies faked demand using manufactured statistics about internet traffic. But today the tech sector is executing a far more sophisticated, mind-bending trick by manufacturing demand with a closed-loop financial circle. If you follow the paper trail of the modern AI economy, the money doesn't move in a straight line to consumers. It moves in a highly coordinated recursive loop where mega-cap technology providers fund the elite AI laboratories. The AI laboratories use that exact funding to pay cloud infrastructure corporations. The cloud corporations use those proceeds to purchase ultra-premium silicon chips, and the revenue from those chip sales flows right back into the hands of the hardware monopolies, funding the entire ecosystem. Every single time that same pool of cash passes a new hand in the circle, corporate accountants joyfully log it as brand new organic end-user demand, which validates growth narratives, props up astronomical valuations, and keeps the stock market soaring. But vendor financing cannot outrun basic math forever, and the cracks in the loop are already beginning to splinter wide open if you look directly into the eye of the storm at OpenAI. For a brief moment they owned the horizon, but right on schedule the boom arrived as Google, Anthropic, Meta, Microsoft, and xAI all charged into the arena, all spending billions to sell essentially the exact same digital commodity. The leaked financials from 2025 revealed the horrific cost of this hyper-competition, as OpenAI lost a staggering $38.5 billion in a single year, which was nearly 8 times its loss from the year prior. Even more alarming, they were forced to skyrocket their sales and marketing budget by over 400% to $5.7 billion, meaning they are burning nearly half of their entire top-line revenue, just desperately pleading with users not to drift away to a competitor. The structural fragility of this ecosystem is highly volatile, and we saw the warning shot when a leading chip maker posted phenomenally strong earnings, but guided its next quarter just a fraction of a hair below Wall Street's absolute perfection. The psychological reaction was instantaneous and violent as $300 billion in market value evaporated in a single trading session. When a minor rounding error can trigger the largest single-day market cap destruction in history, you are not looking at a stable, healthy economic environment, but rather a market suspended on a razor-thin tripwire. There is an old, unforgiving law in the frontier of business stating that the pioneers get the arrows, but the settlers get the land. The first movers take the catastrophic hits by fighting the unprecedented legal battles, bleeding their balance sheets dry, building the raw physical infrastructure, and exhausting their capital educating the masses, only to collapse under the weight of the oversupply they created. Once the dust settles, the silent second movers, the settlers, walk onto the battlefield, dodge the arrows, and simply inherit the earth. You have watched this happen your entire life because in the mid-90s, pioneers like Alta Vista and Lycos spent millions building the very first web crawlers, only to lose their way chasing immediate ad revenue to survive, allowing Google to walk into the clearing, avoid their structural mistakes, and take the land. Before Uber and Lyft conquered transportation, a pioneer named Sidecar spent its entire life bleeding cash in courtrooms, fighting the regulatory battles that made the rideshare model legally possible. And while Sidecar died taking the arrows, Uber copied the blueprint and took the world. Which brings us all the way back to the ultimate question hanging over the global economy today. The loud, panicked debate online is completely irrelevant, and whether AI is a bubble or a breakthrough doesn't even matter, because the technology is real, the infrastructure is being built, and the $725 billion is already in the ground. The only question that matters, the one that should keep you awake at night, is far more calculated. Who is currently running headfirst into the arrows? Who is about to drown in the inevitable structural collapse of the loop? And most importantly, who is quietly sitting in the shadows waiting for the crash, preparing to inherit the entire digital kingdom for pennies on the dollar? The algorithmic dam is fracturing, the quiet mechanics beneath the surface are shifting into their final phase, and the countdown to the greatest transfer of wealth in human history has already begun. The blueprint is lying right in front of you, the clock is ticking, and the only remaining mystery is what your next move will be.